This is a battle in the Use It and Lose It tournament, Ardiaei versus the Getae. Ardiaei, a decent enough pick. Barbarians pose problems for Getae in most cases, but when barbarian melee units are limited, it becomes a bit easier for Getae. But I just want to check something before we start. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so it looked like there was a lot of infantry here, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yep, so 14 infantry units, the legal amount. Then we have 3 slave slingers, 3 Illyrian cavalry. It's all about these guys, the Illyrian noble hoplites. Extremely tanky hoplites with elite spears. Illyrian hoplites on the flanks. Then we have Illyrian Thureos, mercenary Celts, mercenary axe, mercenary axe, mercenary Celt, mercenary axe, and mercenary Celt. A mercenary axe, I mean. So it looks like we have 4 mercenary axe and 2 mercenary Celt. For Getae, we have 4 bowhorse, I assume. Yep, 4 bowhorse. Then we have some spear warriors, folksmen, spear horse, total of 4 spear horse. And we can't see the entire army. Some mercenary axe, folksmen as well. Blademaster commanding the Ardiaei. So he does the right things straight away. If your opponent splits up like this, makes it fairly obvious he wants to surround. Now, if you just go to one side, then your opponent is going to have to travel that much further to consolidate his forces. And if you are then able to isolate one army, essentially, one contingent at a time, it's going to go very well for you. He also has 4 noble swords. Noble swords, very good against any type of spear unit. The bowhorse rush up and do a bit of early damage against Illyrian Thureos. And I kind of question bringing the amount of cavalry that the Getae did here against Ardiaei, because there are a total of 8 cav units, I believe, 8 or 7. And they are nice for charging Celts, they are nice for charging mercenary axe. They are not nice for much else against the Ardiaei. You know there's going to be a hoplite spam. And one of the issues with these spear horse is that they only have a 10 bonus versus large. They are heavy, but these quite crappy Illyrian cavalry can do a reasonable job against the spear horse because they have a 15 bonus, not just a 10 bonus. And that is something that you'll see on a lot of barbarian cavalry. They have a 10 bonus, not a 15 bonus, which makes them better. For these heavy spear horse are better at killing infantry than they are at killing cavalry. However, against hoplites with expert charge defense, no dice. So Blademaster has positioned himself towards the side. It looks like Getae is just content to hang around here and do some early skirmishing with the bowhorse. Need to be careful around Illyrian Thureos. They got some shots off, but it didn't look like they hit anything. Might have done some hit point damage, but no kills for them yet. And one of the things that makes the Illyrian Thureos great, they won't stand up to a charge, but the expert charge, the cavalry counter tactics, if you can make them join a cavalry fight, they are so good with their then 60 bonus against large. Will just kill cavalry in seconds, because that 60 bonus is going to increase their melee attack to 80 against cavalry and their weapon damage to 85. That kills a lot of cavalry. That's enough to one-shot a lot of the cavalry in the game if you're lucky. So very deadly. Even if just a few guys survive the initial impact and the cavalry isn't pulled out right away, they can do a lot of damage. So an annoying little unit, but a unit that Ardiaei needs to be able to deal with the cavalry effectively, since they have no good cavalry of their own. Now here we have the spear horse, let's see, charging into the Illyrian Tereos. Cavalry counter tactics used, square use, so sending in the spear horse when you have cavalry counter tactics on is very, very risky. It didn't go too poorly here for the spear horse. They just lost some hit points, but lost three spear horse, so kind of a good display of how poorly they stand up to a charge. But if these spear horse were kept in for a few seconds longer, they would lose a lot more men. Now the bow horse are firing, but they're getting hit themselves, not enough to kill a significant amount of them. Using heavy shot, nicely done. Now getting charges off on the Illyrian cavalry here or the spear horse, but they need to. This was a risky engagements because of the Illyrian Tereos. It's true they don't have the cavalry counter tactics anymore, but they could tip this fight in favor of these Illyrian cavalry. The Illyrian cavalry wisely being pulled out here to screen these slave slingers, and now the heavy horse, the spear horse, just needs to get the hell out of there. They do not want to fight Illyrian Tereos in melee, so very depleted unit of Illyrian cavalry. Going after the bow horse. The bow horse are winded at this point, and that is a problem. That means that the charge speed of the Illyrian cavalry, them being medium, is going to allow them to catch the bow horse. Huge problem there. And now we have two units of spear horse fighting an Illyrian Tereos. The Illyrian Tereos are about to break, but this was not a good exchange for the spear horse whatsoever. They broke the Illyrian Tereos, now they're about to get precursored by mercenary Celtics, it seems. They are going to rush in and charge, but they're going to lose a lot of men in the process. They are going to do a fair bit of damage to the Celtic warriors, but splitting up the units and going for the slave slingers would have been a better choice, I think. Meanwhile, these Illyrian cavalry have done a lot of work in pushing away the bow horse and saving the slinger. Getting in the Illyrian cavalry to help the slave slingers as well. So they're getting kills, the spear horse, but they're also getting neutralized. They're getting ground down because they're going in unsupported, going in for raids on the enemy skirmishers and on the enemy infantry. And although they've gotten some kills, this is not a good exchange for them whatsoever. They are charging cheap units and dying in the process. So 70 kills, 84 kills. So neither of them killed a single unit, and they are more expensive than every single unit they fought. Which is what's nice with Ardiaei. You can bring a lot of these shitty units, and the enemy might waste a lot of units killing them. Like the Illyrian cavalry got off the field. The mercenary Celtic warriors, 43 kills, immense. And now they're getting close to the bow horse again. Might be out of precursors here. The slingers should be able to get a few shots off. But these bow horse have been running for far too long. Tired, very tired. Could get intercepted now by the Illyrian cavalry. And this is also why I like using why cavalry late game is preferable to cavalry early game. Cavalry early game, you're going to face skirmishers, you're going to face precursors, you're going to face unengaged units that can support very well, and Blademaster has done a good job of that here. So the bow horse are not trading effectively either, so essentially 4 of the units of Getae not trading effectively whatsoever, trying to take out a few very cheap units. At some point, it's best to just cut your losses and get the hell out. But in this particular case, charging the Celtics in spaghetti and then going for the slave slingers would be the thing to do here. That would have done impact damage to the Celts, and it would have done damage to the slave slingers. Now instead, the slave slingers are able to fire at the exhausted bow horse and do more damage to them. So much of the cavalry support of Getae off the field for very little cost to the Ardiaei. No damage done to the most important infantry units here. Now the slave slingers are moving up. If they get shots off on these noble swords, it's going to be very important when the main engagement happens, because if the noble swords lose men, they're going to be outnumbered on the charge by Illyrian noble. And that's a problem for them, and now there is no cavalry here to contest these slingers. the cavalry is all the way over here and all the way over here. So this was, let's just say, not optimal not an optimal start for Getae. These spear warriors looks like they're also going to have a death wish. Now, firing into the backs of the spear warriors wouldn't be a bad idea at this point. Although spear warriors, not really a threat, but it's always nice to be able to do some damage for free, especially with a unit like slave slingers. It looks like they're going to take the opportunity to fire into the backs of the spear warriors. Won't get many kills, but they're going to do damage. Ardiaei can either be a rush army, or if you have an aggressive opponent, it can sort of be a come at me bro army. And in this case, it became come at me because Getae just sent all of the cavalry over here to die. But now that the cavalry support is essentially halved, it's a lot safer for Ardiaei to engage. Fewer frontal cavalry charges to deal with. And these hoplites can protect somewhat from frontal cavalry charges, but heavy melee cavalry charging into hoplites 2 ranks deep can just knock down the hoplites and continue into the mercenary Celts and continue through. That's the ideal scenario, where you have a unit of noble swords. You have a unit of cav. The cav charges into the hoplites, through the hoplites, into the mercenary axe warriors. The noble swords engages and destroys the Illyrian hoplites. The cavalry continues through and then back into the mercenary axe warriors. And once again, the bow horse, exhausted bow horse now. I'm not really sure what these guys are doing, trying to get slave slingers off the field, but themselves getting charged by Illyrian cavalry. This is almost painful to watch. This is another very, very poor use of the bow horse. Again, these guys late game heavy shot, so good, but used like this to get a unit of slave slingers off the field, and even the depleted unit of slave slingers, I don't see why, really. The Illyrian cavalry is 73 kills, but every single kill is a cavalry kill. And that essentially makes the Illyrian cavalry cost effective already, having lost only 20 men. So Ardiaei lost a bit of a slinger unit, lost a cav unit, lost some Celtic warriors and some slave slingers. So Ardiaei has basically not lost anything at this point compared to what the Getae has lost. The Getae has lost a lot. Well, it looks like Blademaster has grabbed his balls and is going for a general advance. Slave slingers not firing yet at the spear warriors. Ideally, they will just focus on the noble swords before the main engagement happens. And with Ardiaei, it's usually the hoplites just hold, and then the second line of Celts and axes come in to deal a lot of damage, much more damage than they would be able to deal on their own. Walking up now is the army of the Getae. One of the issues with Getae is that they have these 4 good noble swords that can take units head on in charge, but then they have these mercenary axe warriors completely alone, isolated, and they're not even going to like getting charged by Illyrian hoplites. They have some support here from Folksmen, but that's another very, very squishy unit that needs good support and able to do well, essentially. When rear charging, the amount of kills these guys can get is astounding. But with 10 armor, 50 health, basically everything kills them in extended melee. The spear warriors just walking up in... just walking up. It looks like they want to get the charge here on their Illyrian noble hoplites. decide against it and run away. The mercenary Celts got a charge here against the... seems like it was against the spear warriors. Now the noble swords are going to charge. The spear warriors charge in. Nicely done here in using the folks as the second line if they get charge orders. We have the hoplites against the noble swords. A bit slow here with the Illyrian cavalry. It didn't look like... No, the folksmen didn't get the charge. Huge problem. Piling in the units is Getae. And let's see here. Noble swords against mercenary axes. Getae has missed a lot of charges. Sending in cavalry to knock down a few noble swords. Nicely done there. Frontal charges when you have units spread thin like that is very nice. And so the Illyrian noble hoplites get their share of kills, but the Illyrian cavalry knock down a lot of these noble swords. So they are actually losing decisively on the charge here. Losing, the Illyrian noble hoplites didn't have cav support here, they're losing. Mercenary Celts and Illyrian hoplites losing here to the noble swords. But since this unit of folksmen didn't get a charge, this mercenary axe warrior is doing fairly well. Mercenary axe warriors losing decisively against noble swords, of course they are. Looks like the folksmen haven't gotten a charge here either. Now they're getting a charge against the mercenary Celts. This was the depleted unit of mercenary Celts, so that unit should just disappear at once. But overall, things are looking good for Ardiaei. Getting a rear charge here against the noble swords, and even medium cavalry rear charging is doing damage here. So the Illyrian hoplites are dying, but they did their job in doing so. Nice round here by Illyrian noble hoplites against the noble swords, using fear, intimidate, to stop this guy from using his second wind, which is a very good idea. Now the Illyrian noble hoplites charging in to join the fight, and now the Getae general is losing. He's surrounded against an almost full strength Illyrian noble hoplite, another Illyrian noble hoplite. So this is a problem for the general of the Getae. The cavalry, the spear horse, not able to do much. The noble swords broke through, of course. But this is where it's happening. This is where the problem is. Unsupported general just dying in a mass of units. Let's see, the folksmen charging in here. Doing a bit of damage. Mercenary axes in a weird formation. Didn't get a proper charge, it seems. Mercenary axe warriors standing around, now ganging up on the noble swords here in the center. And these guys have held for a long time because the mercenary axe warriors didn't get the charge. Now the noble swords losing slightly here. They are fresh, so second wind has been activated. Illyrian nobles just chasing after the spear warriors here. And the noble swords dying to a combination of javelins from Illyrian Thureos and to mercenary axes and Illyrian noble hoplites. The spear warriors got into the Illyrian cavalry. The Illyrian cavalry is being pulled out. A few units over here, but they are very far away from the main engagement. And this is one of the problems you can get if you spread out too wide. I like to spread out wide. But if you lose half your cavalry in the beginning of the battle, you're going to run into problems when you spread wide. You're going to get frontally cav charged. You're not going to be able to support properly. And the problem is, if you get units isolated on either flank, like what happened here, the center is wide open. So going wide can work, but only if you're able to support your units. In this case, Getae just didn't use the army properly in every in every sense of the word, basically. Getting the general surrounded and sending him in YOLO, losing half the cavalry when you've spent so much on cavalry, huge problem against the Ardiaei. Now the Volksmen here, when they manage to charge, they do the damage. They deal a lot of damage when they get the charge, but they are so reliant on getting that charge in order to do the damage. And it looks like the Getae general is off the field. He is dead. Morale is going to be a problem. Nice kills on the mercenary axis here. And nice kills on these guys as well. The Volksmen... nice kills on the Volksmen. These guys were the ones that got proper charges. Now they're going to get off the field from the Illyrian cavalry. And what do you know? Ardiaei defeats the Getae. So Blademaster wins with the Getae here. Very even in terms of kills. But of course losing the general, that was very bad. And even though this unit messed up the first charge, that was a very, very important charge. They ended up getting nice kills here. The Axis ended up getting nice kills. But the main problem for Getae was wasting the cavalry, and wasting the cavalry to an epic degree. Blademaster's army, a decent army. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 infantry units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 infantry were versus 14 infantry, and 2 of those were Illyrian Tereos. So this is a rare case where Ardiaei can actually do well against the Getae. Now, the main problem, in my opinion, for Getae was the things I've mentioned here. Trimalchio using his cavalry super aggressively when he didn't need to. Not getting in any charges against the hoplites and charging after charging him with the noble swords. Because the thing to consider is, it's very important to be aware of what your cavalry is good for and what it isn't good for. And these heavy cavalry units do a good job at knocking down infantry, even heavy hoplites when they are charging. So sending them in to fight medium cavalry and sending them in against units that have their precursors is a good way to throw away those units. Now, I think the Getae army is a decent one. But the opening stages of the battle was where the Getae lost the entire flank at basically no cost to the Ardiaei, and that enabled these slave slingers to get some very nice kills, enabled the Illyrian Tereos to get some kills on cavalry, and the follow-up, the opening engagement for Blademaster was much better. I mean, just textbook Illyrian hoplites, noble hoplites, sending in second line units. And I think Getae was a bit unfortunate in not getting some key important charges off. But it goes to show that when you have units limiting the most powerful barbarian units, of course the barbarians get less powerful. I still think the Getae is a stronger faction than Ardiaei if used properly, but Ardiaei can compete with the barbarians. Given equal player skill, it becomes difficult, but the gap between the factions is certainly lessened with the rules of the use it and lose it tournament, which is nice in some ways and not so nice in other ways. But overall, it's good. Strength and honor.